Hey everyone, and welcome to the first in this series of Let's Talk AppSec. For those that don't know me, my name's Simon. I'm the founder of the InfoSec Live community, and I'm going to be the host for today's event. And I'm joined by the amazing Jessica Boyer, an information security analyst from the States, and we are going to talk all things AppSec. But before we do that, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone watching, to those on LinkedIn and to those on YouTube, and to those who maybe aren't watching live and watching this later. We really appreciate your support. This new weekly series is going to be hosted by myself and will feature a different industry professional each week, where we're going to look at the problems and challenges that businesses are facing at the moment for AppSec. So without further ado, Jessica, could you say hello and tell everyone a bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, hi, thank you. And I appreciate you having me on again. And this community in LinkedIn has really blown up, and it's great to be able to have these discussions. My name is Jessica Boyer. Um, I work the side of InfoSec for a smaller company, and I've been there for about 2 years now. And with it being a smaller business, we get to play a lot of different hats and roles and collaborate with different sides. And one of the sides that I've been learning more about is AppSec, which has really been something interesting to me because I really think it's goes hand in hand with InfoSec. And people may not realize that, but it does. It's important.
It does, and perhaps it's not talked about enough. And I mean, for myself, you'll know I'm not an expert in cybersecurity, but my passion is and has been offensive security. And one of the many rabbit holes that you can go down within offensive security is application security. And it's such a diverse and unexplored, from my point of view, field that I'm hoping these shows do two things. One, educate me and make me more aware of kind of the importance of AppSec and how it fits into the whole InfoSec experience, and also helping our audience as well understand perhaps a bit more in detail about that. So in your day-to-day role at the moment at your firm, what challenges are you seeing within application security? I'm going to have to put my glasses back on now, which is stuck together by a bit of tape. So you'll have to
Well,
excuse.
I think it's not only just in my sector and our side and our business. I think I've seen the conversation come up many times before with LinkedIn, across all businesses, where we are struggling and running like mad to catch up, not only in InfoSec but application security as well, because there's a lot of legacy applications still being used out there, and trying to patch holes and trying to fix things is just, it's not working. It's not working, and we need to do better with getting information out there and actually teaching these developers security, to think security minded first as they're developing,
So
instead of.
it's an education process as much as anything else, you think?
Yes, I believe so. And the more we educate, the more we talk, the more we drive that interest, I think it'll be better for us as well. But innovation, we need a lot more innovation. We need to stop with some of this old technology we're using, quit trying to plug holes. It's a leaky hose, and it's got to stop somewhere.
No, I completely agree. So, for those that aren't aware of where application security fits in, and as I said, I'm not an expert, but if we look at it as part of the software development lifecycle, where you're constantly assessing, or should be perhaps constantly assessing, the security aspects of it, what we find sometimes is it's more of a shutting the gate as the horse is bolted, as they say here in the UK, and doing it last minute as an afterthought in some cases rather than a forethought. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. You put your code, you develop your code, and then you know run it through the programs that are supposed to spot the vulnerabilities and the flaws in it. However, again, a lot of companies, and it's not just ours, it's all across the board. If they're using legacy applications and they're having to work with that, it's many holes, and it's people out there that are malicious actors. They know about this stuff already. They're already on top of it. They're already aware, and they're constantly digging at those holes.
So what's the answer? I mean, I suppose for companies to replace some of that old infrastructure or some of that old technology can sometimes be a huge job. What
It is
how do you motivate them to make that decision? I suppose is the question.
um education, and just the fact that either you want your business to succeed, move forward, and be innovative, or you're going to always be falling behind and playing catch up. So, do you want to spend the time, take what time it needs to be taken to develop and bring in um, new technology, educate how we need to educate? It does take time. It's a big undertaking, but do you want to keep playing catch up, or do you want to take the time, spend that time, get it together, and then progress forward?
I think the other point is you can keep playing catch up for so long, but technologies do become obsolete, as does the support for them, which I think is a lot of the issues with some of them out there. I've just seen we've had a question pop up. Let me bring that up. It's from LinkedIn user. I'm afraid I'm not getting the data on who that was. I'm not very good at multitasking, so I'm going to look later to see who asked the question. But thanks for it. What are your thoughts on the current state of QA/QC teams as it relates to application security?
Um, just from what I've seen, what I've heard, what I've read, even for them, I don't think, as much as they try, as much as the business needs are, there's always a push, the business first, and to move it. Business has got to make money, right? You've got to get it out there. You got to make money, and they're at the same part of it to where they're playing. Is this a business need? Do we take the time to fix it, but we're going to be down? Um, they have a huge role to play too, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of education that needs to go in with that, with that side as well. Um, and it may just be they're either smaller teams, they don't have the time, they and it's making those decisions too, especially in leadership. Do we tell the business this is broke? We can't keep patching this. We're going to have to be down for a little bit, fix it the way it needs to be fixed, and then drive on. Or put the little patch hold plug on it. Maybe it'll hold for a little bit. You know,
It's
it,
back. It's
it,
back
it's
to that
hard to say.
relationship
It's not
between.
easy. It's not
Sorry,
an
Jess.
easy decision. Sorry, it's not an easy decision. Um,
It's also back to the communication problems, perhaps, with the technology leaders and the C-suite on how the risks are explained, because we've seen it a lot with recent decisions by some big companies in the UK where they perhaps haven't been informed. I mean, you could also liken it to the current invasion of Ukraine, where Putin perhaps hasn't been informed that well by his generals because they're too worried about what he's going to say. And I think well, tenuous war link, but you can relate that to discussions that go on with the boardroom, because getting budgets is hard enough, and no one likes delivering bad news, do they?
no, I don't think nobody wants to be in that seat and tell somebody, hey, um, we need to be down for a day, 2 day, whatever it takes to move that into a different direction. Because you're talking about a huge loss of profit. Depending on what you bring in daily, you could be talking about a good million, hundreds of thousands of dollars lost in a day or two. But when you're talking about future, is it worth the loss for a few days, a week, whatever it takes for the progression in the future? Because either way you look at it, you either take a short amount of loss to get it fixed, get it developed, and innovate the right way, or you could end up potentially taking a huge loss. Especially, you've got your ransomware, you've got your breaches, and they're still happening. They're still happening. I just looked at a list, not that if it came out in the U.S. for healthcare industry. That list was huge. Clinics, hospitals, insurance companies. It was just one after another. I mean,
It's back again to the risk versus reward, though, isn't it? You
yeah.
say spend money now or spend loads later, and it's back to that mentality. Ironically, you talk about attacks going on in the media here today. There's been a denial of service attack on all of our energy suppliers, and it's actually been caused not by a malicious hacker, but by an energy expert or a financial expert who gives advice. And basically, he told everyone this week that they have to report their energy ratings because they're all going up, and it has to be done by the 31st of March. And because he's done that, it's shut all of the systems down for reporting in the UK. So the guy's kind of caused a denial of service attack just by telling people to go on the website. So it shows you how easy it is, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's very easy. And um, I, I got in this business because I knew where I was. Technology is developing fast, right? We're developing really fast, and we are at a marathon of where we're going. And the thing about this industry is if you're not constantly developing your career and learning new technology, getting out there, you're going to be left behind. People I think get comfortable. They kind of, and I had this conversation before too. People get comfortable, kind of almost in a rut, going along. They get comfortable. They're good at their job. They know what they do, and to learn something new and put yourself out there to go in a different direction is scary.
So with that in mind, then, with that in mind, for a technology leader, the question I've got is application security something that should be done in-house where you mark your own homework, or is it something that should be outsourced, or does it depend from business to business?
I think that depends from business to business. And it can be done. Like I said, it depends on the teams. How big are the teams? What are their workloads look like? From business to business, that can look, from
Vastly
one end
different.
perspective, yeah, vastly different. So it also depends on the budget. Do you have the budget to go outsourced? Um, and then what does your workload look like on the inside too? Are they overworked? Do they not have enough people? Yeah, there's a lot of key elements at play there.
So what does a good application security process look like? So we hear the terminology, or the buzzword that I hear is shifting security left, I suppose, along the development pipeline process and integrating it to that. And again, that's not a one answer for every firm either, is it? Because each one's going to be completely different.
Yeah, it is not just a narrow-minded or narrow thought focus. It is more of, what does your teams look like? What does the business look like? And how can we progress this in a secure manner? And it's, again, I come back to the thing that we need to start developing with security at the front instead of security behind trying to play catch up. We need to start developing with security at the focus, because look at the state of everything right now. We're playing catch up, and we're still playing catch up, and it's not working. So either get security at the front and let it lead, or we're going to keep being back there going, wait, we got to fix these holes.
So where's the problem then? So do we as an industry, or do the industry professionals need to make more of an effort educating the people creating the software, the developers, or is it something that needs to be led organisation from the top of organisations down? Whose
I
responsibility is
think
it, or is it the developers just need to actually come on, guys and girls? Let's just integrate that a bit.
I think it's a whole team effort, right? You need it at the top, you need it in the middle, and you need it in the background as well. It kind of has to like incorporate everything, kind of like, King Arthur and the Round Table. Bring it all in, bring it all together, but lead with that as well. And I've said this since I've started in here: security needs to be throughout the whole business. And it's not that if you're an InfoSec person, you're it needs to be where, we as information security or even application security, we've learned the importance of this. Okay, so now you need to take those people that want and develop them into leadership roles and start leading those teams and saying, okay, what does this look like? Where are we going? but start with security, start talking security, start educating security. Like I said, get out in front of it and start instead of playing catch up. But we really need that leadership as well in there. And we need people that want to work hand in hand, right? Because we don't need just to be a separate group, an entity. Hey, we're InfoSec. Hey, we're security. Hey, we're application security. We need to be working with other teams. We need to see how they operate. What does their day-to-day workload look like? Where are these gaps happening? Kind of come in and look at, is there something we can do as a security team to help them? Is this something they're lacking? And security could be like, if there's only like a handful of developers and they've got this huge workload, just saying like, look how much you guys are putting on them. There's something that is solvable, but you have to have that mindset going in there too. Mindset of not only the business security, but the operation of it as well.
It's
And
back to the point you've made over and over again, where it's leadership, isn't it? And
yeah, it really is. It comes
until
down.
leadership steps up and starts pushing it forward, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
How long have you been at your current firm, Jessica?
Almost 2 years. So it's
And
coming up.
how much is the I suppose the embedding of the security culture or the mindset? How much has that changed over the last 2 years in that organisation?
It has changed drastically, and I absolutely love our leadership. We have a great leadership team for us. They support us, but they also give us and enable us to go out there and be leaders of our own, what we own, what we're responsible for. And I love the fact that I'm talking with developers, I'm talking with engineers, I'm working with them. And that's what you get out of I think, a smaller business as well, is that you get into those areas and you learn about engineering side, you learn about the development side, you learn about, and it depends, do you have a communications group? You work with HR, you're just in and out and you weave yourself in there. And the more conversations you have, the more you work with people, but you have to be willing to have that drive to be that way. It does take time. If it takes time for me to talk to somebody and say, hey, maybe we're not doing this the right way. How can I support you?
Again, Jessica, that's not something you
Yeah.
can just jump in and do straight away. You've got the whole
No,
building
it's not.
rapport and respect, and
Right. You've got to build this thing out. And we have. I think we've done a good job of building it, and we're continuing to build on that. But yeah, if you're coming in there like a brand new team, right? And depending on what had been done in the past, who knows, right? It's in the past. But you could be facing a lot of different issues too.
yeah.
So it's not something that you can go, oh, we're going to solve this quick and fast. But you got to be steady. You got to be steady with this thing, and you've got to be supportive and know that people have the jobs that they need to do. They have their daily tasks they need to do. They're under pressure as well. So you need to have that kind of understanding and that communication with them as well.
I think you said about it's quite a small company you work for. I've worked for FTSE 100 firms, and I mean my own business was only, I think, at the biggest about 30, 34, 35 staff. And I always feel working in a smaller business, you can not only have more of an impact, but if you've got the right team around you, the fact that you are doing a bit in HR and you're over in the development part, for me is quite exciting and makes the job more interesting. And I think sometimes with bigger firms, especially with perhaps embedded cultures that aren't that great, it's a really difficult sea change. It's not a one person job either. You can't get, a couple of new CISOs in there and hope it's going to get fixed. It comes right back to the culture of the organization, doesn't it? And how they train their staff and the whole mindset.
Yeah. And it's like anything. You're gonna run into walls. You're gonna run into very frustrating situations. And it's a steady progression, right? It's like you can't throw up your hands at this and just quit. It's a steady process, and you keep working at it, and you keep working at it. But the more you communicate, the more you are out there saying, hey, I understand you have a workload. I understand that this is important to you, but let's try to see if we can fix this as well, solve these issues together. People need to know they're supported as well in their jobs, and not just being hammered of you're failing at security, you're failing us, you're failing the business. How can we help you? How can we help you make this better? And it's
I
a
think
change.
by working together as well and embedding that into the process, they can then stop those bottlenecks they're getting at the end when they want to go into production and they can't because they've suddenly uncovered all these issues. And surely, with a bit of hindsight, it makes it easier for everyone if it's embedded and being done together. But we've got another quick question from LinkedIn user. Sorry, I haven't got your name again. Based on continued risks with third parties, where do you see supply chain security in app development and deployment going in the next few years? That's a great question.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a lot of risk out there with third party, right? Again, it's they have a business. They're getting contracted out as a third party. I think it goes back as well as, you do your security reviews, right? On anybody or partner that you're partnering with or bringing in. And it's really asking those questions about how do they handle their security? What are you guys doing with these risks? And lining up your questions for them, asking the right questions of them, getting that conversation started, even if they don't know and they haven't thought about it. It gets those thought processes rolling, and you really need that in there when you're bringing in third parties like that. You need your compliance, you need your InfoSec teams, your security teams, and you need those reviews, and you need those hard hitting questions in that too, and get them thinking as well. Even if they come back and say, well, we don't know, we don't have that in place. Well, how would you get that in place? Are you going to be able to get that in place? And there's a lot of hard decisions in that too. Do you still continue and go with them, or do you find somebody else that fits in a little bit better and has a little bit more security posture that you're looking for? It's a lot of hard questions to be asked. I think we just lost him. Let's see if he joins back on. I know he was having issues earlier. Interdepartmental collaboration is seriously lacking. Yes, I think so. I really think so. Let's see if he comes back on. Simon said he'll be back ASAP. His internet has dropped out. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in there. Kim, if you could change one thing about your day-to-day, what would it be? What would it be? What would it be? That's a good question. I like the fact that we do get to collaborate a lot. I think one thing that I would like to see more of is maybe doing departmental security awareness training, holding almost like a brown bag session with each department, asking them, hey, what do you struggle with that you see? Asking the questions of where we could help them do better and giving a little more training to them as well. So I'd like to see more of that. Hey, Simon.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
So before we came on, I was explaining to Jessica that we'd gone from spring summer-like conditions here in the UK to wind, snow, and hail. So effectively, my Starlink dish just got knocked off the roof again. Luckily, it's a low roof, so I've had to run downstairs, put it back up, and come back. So I'm so sorry.
That's awesome.
Bit of hail on the soup. It's all right. But sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Now. Where were we?
I was asking. I was kind of like doing the hosting, asking questions and talking.
It's got to be a guest's worst nightmare. I'm so sorry, Jessica. You look so relaxed and like you've coped with it really well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I thought I was going to have the internet issues because last week during the middle of work, they cut our line because they were trenching right with a new line, and they cut it, both lines. They cut the old one and the new one, and I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I thought I was going to have the issues, but yeah, this is fun.
You did. You sent me a message earlier saying you saw a suspicious-looking telecoms van out the back. And there's me in my dressing gown half an hour before climbing up on the shed roof to put the dish back up. It didn't bode well. So you were answering someone's question, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I was asking Kim's question about there. I think day to day, I can't see the questions anymore. I think it went down to the bottom.
Okay.
But she was saying,
Kim, thank you. Thanks for jumping in, Kim. Anyway, and asking some questions and saving us there. That's much appreciated.
Yeah, I think we got a couple more in there as well.
Let's bring these up. Here we go. So we've got Tristan. Curious about the potential threats as organisations migrate to the cloud. What do you think is the future of DDoS as a service by criminals? Good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we are migrating into cloud. It's more and more and more companies are going there. You can't stop it. That's where it's happening. What you're going to have to get in there and do, though, where we could be lacking is it's all around controls and configuration, right? You have, with the cloud, many hands in the pocket. You have hands that you may not be working directly with, right? Say you're with Amazon or even Microsoft, they're both big cloud providers. And then you have Google too. These are people that they're working the backside of it as well. But then you have your own engineering team, your own development teams. And it's all about, how do you set it up? What configurations are you putting in there into place? And again, it's like, it's a slow and steady pace of, this is how we need to do this and be conscious. Unfortunately, you want to get the ball rolling. You want to get it out there, get it fast, get it turned over. And I think that's where we make mistakes, is in that whole fast speed, build the business, get it out there. We want to lift it and shift it as quickly as possible.
It's about that risk ownership as well, isn't it? It's about who owns the risk. Everyone's out.
And I'm sorry, but then some people are not going to like this. Security shouldn't own all the risk, because we don't have our hands and we don't do the engineering portion of it. We don't do the spin ups or the development of the code or anything like that. So you can't put that all on one security team and saying, this is all your fault. This is on you. No, each department, for whatever they're in charge of, for whatever controls they're in charge of, they need to own those risks, and they need to be able to collaborate with the security team as well.
Completely. We've got another question here. And LinkedIn user, I know who this is now, Jeff. Thank you very much. Jeff from Valor. Thank you, Jeff. What would be your approach to tailoring security training for app development? That's a really good question, and it kind of leads into what we were talking about earlier, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I don't know. I haven't really dug in and looked at that side, what there is out there. It may be something that could be developed more because, there's a lot of security awareness training, just on like phishing and, your with your controls, right? I haven't really looked into see what is out there for security training for an application development side.
Maybe I should start lurking around in the developer.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting to see what is all out there, because I think for that side of it, not only does the company as a whole need a security awareness training, but maybe we could break it down by department, depending on what they're in charge of, like your application side, doing just application awareness training. So yeah, that's a really good
really good point. It's also quite a good way of application security testing firms to perhaps get some new lines of business as well.
Yeah, of course. And
so
like
what are the biggest challenges that you're facing at the moment with regards to application security in the business you work at, Jessica? Obviously, if you can say without breaching.
Yeah. There's that too.
There is that, yeah.
There are new things coming out every day, right? Everybody's being poked at every day. These malicious actors are, they've got all the time in the world. We've got 8 hours a day, sometimes 12 hours a day. We're running on caffeine or whatever it is that keeps us going. And then of course we have our families and everything like that. Who knows what the malicious side looks like, but obviously they've got all the time in the world to keep poking.
I think the other thing is that the last attack, or a couple of the last attacks we've seen, I mean, one of them was done by a teenager from the UK who caused, you don't want to know how much damage. And then you've got the kind of automated attacks that are just by volume that, again, script kiddies can run. You can buy these things as a service on the dark web now. And you keep hearing people saying, well, hackers don't have degrees. Well, no, they don't. And I do get where people are coming from with that. But equally, it's the mindset you want, but it's then about training those people and embedding them into the right culture and getting them to understand all the other risks and the business aspects of it as well. So I don't think a simple answer is just getting the bad guys and saying, come on, fella, it's all right. It's a bit more than that, isn't it? But I do feel we're missing out on a lot of talent because of the barriers to entry in this industry. And I think, without wanting to get too doom and gloom, I mean, 20 years in financial services, the markets are at a peak. We are going to see some form of recession and drop at some point in the future. And when people who've become weaponized from learning these trades but haven't then got jobs, I can tell you now that people will do pretty much anything to feed the families if they're put in that position. And I think there needs to be more embracing, perhaps within the industry, of also the geographical part of recruiting. And we had a discussion about this yesterday, how we're missing a lot of talent because they're not based in the UK, they're not based in the US. And whilst obviously depending on the job, there could be security concerns, the world has changed a lot in the last 2 or 3 years. And I think sometimes it's more of a cultural barrier than it is a compliance one.
Yeah. And I think starting, you can say even elementary. Okay. Take an elementary kid, say 7, 8, and they're already online, right?
Yeah.
They're already playing games. Our younger generation is already online and connected. And, if you're not a helicopter parent, anybody, they can be at a young age, start being poached, right? Start being groomed. Hey, how about you do this for me? And I had this conversation online with a couple of posts, right? Under a certain age, you're not going to be tried as an adult. Have a 16-year-old I don't know how the UK laws are, but I know from the US, like depending on the crime, right? Depending on the crime, you probably wouldn't be charged as an adult as a 16-year-old.
No.
So, or is there a potential that these groomed by adults? Yeah, I think so. I think,
Yeah.
they're online, they're playing games, right? You can tell
And
you see
also you've got to let's look at stepping it up to I mean my eldest are 22 and 16. My 16-year-old's doing technology levels. He's really interested in this. So for 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, perhaps in different countries who've got familial responsibilities, they get approached by people saying, I've got some work for you. It doesn't take a
Mhm.
rocket scientist to work out what's going to happen because it can be dressed up and made to look like they're not doing anything wrong. I think
Right.
that's the danger, isn't it?
Yeah, it
And
is.
when
And
you say about educating the children, Joseph Cooper, recruitment consultant, does a lot of work in the US. He posted on LinkedIn this morning about a phishing campaign that's going around WhatsApp. I'm not sure if it is in the US, but it's Cadbury's chocolate and it's an Easter egg hunt. And it's basically a data grab and God knows what else if you go on it. And I sent that to my wife this morning because the parents group, I'd call it the mums group, but it isn't just mums, it's mums and dads. The parents group for our youngest at school, they kind of communicate on this WhatsApp group. And I sent it to Laura to share it. She didn't share it. And then 10 minutes later, one of the parents actually shared around the malicious link with the Easter egg. So it's not the children that need educating, it's the, it's the parents, I think, as well, isn't it?
yeah, it is. I've had that conversation with my neighbors as well. They got two young children in games and stuff, and just having those conversations, even with my neighbors. Be careful out there. Know who your kids are talking to. Not only that, but kids are smart. Kids are smart enough to hold conversations with them to the say, these are the things that you want to look for when people are digging and asking questions. How's your home life? Just kind of general chit chat that maybe they shouldn't be asking. Just trying to get a feel where their home life is and what it's like, and trying to the kind of things that kids need to be aware of, and thinking about like, well, why are they asking me these questions? Um, and it's not that we don't want our kids to be online, but we want them to be safe about it as well. And we want them to know there's key words out there that you can look for. And I
I don't
really think
think,
as the security industry and the security leaders, we need to start getting into our school systems more, even as a volunteer, and just having these
I completely,
conversations.
completely agree. And all you hear from everyone in this industry is that the security concerns of most businesses, most of the problems come from people. And you can't keep blaming it on the people unless you educate them. And you're right, if you start that education process when they're at school, then we've got a much more robust security mindset as a generation of people coming through without
Right,
security teams having to blame it on the employees for having human nature.
right. And like I said, our young kids, up and coming generation, are already online. They're already online, and they're super smart and super intelligent, and they're learning things at a fast rate. And we need to be a part of that. We need to start even elementary, middle school, start having these conversations with these kids, and we don't have to bore them to death, the side of it, but like start with smaller conversations, ask them questions. Well, what would you do in this situation? I do that with my kids. If somebody's asking you this, what would
Yeah.
you do in this situation? Get them ball rolling, get the ideas, ask them. They may have some like ideas we never even heard of or thought of.
Absolutely. You've got me thinking, actually. I wonder whether we can get some volunteers within the InfoSec Live community and create a specific channel aimed at parents and helping them not just keeping their children safe online, but also themselves. And it's not just online for parents, Jessica. Let me tell you a quick story. When my mum was in hospital, I went round to put her bins out, as you have to do once a week. And I took her bins to the top of her drive and noticed that they were full, which, considering she'd been in hospital 2 weeks, was a little bit strange. So being a little bit odd, I did have a look at the rubbish and I pulled one of the bags out the bottom and cut a long story short, there were 3 months bank statements in there, all within the last 6 months. there were pay slips, there were utility bills, there were all these things. And I just kind of looked at it in horror. I mean, I suppose I'm fortunate working in financial services. It's always been, protecting people's data has always been at the forefront of your mind in a way. But the fact that someone would throw this out in the bin, and not only that, not their bin, but someone else's bin. So obviously, I took the bag to the address and knocked on the door, made them feel. They looked absolutely mortified because it was actually my mum's neighbour's daughter-in-law, and pointed out the dangers of leaving such information around in public.
That's awesome, though. I'm sure it's embarrassing.
Just don't put stuff in my bin. It's annoying, isn't it? Enough.
Yeah.
Without leaving your personal data everywhere.
Yeah. It was. You say that somebody dumped a load of trash, right? Just a whole load out there, and the people that found it went through some of the garbage, and there was their mail, all their mail, a part of it. So they loaded it all back up, and then dumped it in their front yard.
Yeah, it was only two carrier bags, and I didn't really want to be that petty.
This was a truckload, a big trailer.
To be honest with you, I was angry to start with, and had every intention of taking it round there and kind of throwing it on the doorstep. But the more I thought about it, it was more about the education and the fact that they needed to understand how stupid it was what they'd done.
Yeah, and shredders don't cost that much, anymore. Get on Amazon or whatever.
No, and if you've got children, you can turn it into a fun game as long as they're careful with the fingers.
Yeah, a lot of kids like playing with the little scissors. Just start having cutting up and coloring, get some markers out.
Shapes, make some confetti. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think it's Jeff again. We're nearly done for time. It's been such fun, apart from me dropping out and leaving you on your own for 5 minutes. The industry continues to identify the talent shortage. Where do you see AI, ML playing a part in the ever need for filling these growing vacancies? I just worked out what ML is. You mean machine learning? So
yeah.
I think there's
as a human being, like I have this AI, ML. I'm like, I see a lot of potential problems with that, right?
You've seen iRobot,
there's still a lot of false positives. There's still a lot of things that as a human, as a communicator, we lose that touch. AI is good for some things, AI, ML. Yes, it can take some of these little mundane tasks out of our way. But when you start using that as an approach to remove somebody as a human to communicate with people and have that personal connection, I think we're going to see a lot more issues.
I think you're right. I think from the live stream we did yesterday, we were talking about AI in relation to submitting CVs and applying for jobs. And I think that could be improved, definitely. The problem is when they get in the volume they are, I suppose they have to automate it in some way. But it would be fairer if they played fair with everyone and explained how that worked. So the fact that, you need to lay it out like this and you need to make sure you have these words in it. And from the session yesterday, it's blown me away as to what a difference it can make, kind of copying keywords from a job application down into your actual resume or CV because of the AI and the machine learning side of it.
Right. And I've seen a post by a connection of mine on there about that as well. They were talking about tailoring resumes to make sure it gets past, all that, right? The hidden keywords in there and everything like that. And then somebody commented, at what point do we tailor it so much that it's almost like we're trying to trick the system, right? Shit. When did we lose that?
Why is it a game?
Yeah. Why is it a game? To get a job? Why does it take that?
I've been out of the job market for a long time and only kind of started looking about a week ago, and I wasted a lot of time sending off applications that weren't tailored, I've got to be honest, and didn't get a lot back. And then when I played the game and sent them off tailored, I got a 3 out of 3 hit rate. So it's a shame that it has to go to that. From a couple of recruiters I've spoken to they see changes with regards to the testing. So I think HackerRank as an organization, they kind of give people practical tests and stuff to do and gamify that experience. So I wonder whether for more technical roles, it could be more relevant to have more practical involvement in the tests. And also, if they're going to start introducing video resumes, seems to be the latest thing that's coming up. Well, that's all very well for people who come across all right on video. But again, in the technology space, no disrespect, not everyone is an extrovert and wants to do that, and
No.
also it won't have any relevance to their day-to-day job. I mean, if you're in a role where you're having to liaise with different teams and communicate messages, then yeah. But if you're, kind of focused on data and behind a desk all day, how is talking into a camera for 2 minutes going to help you in your job? So I think the process needs to be relevant for the role. I think that's where we're going wrong, because it seems to be one process for all of the roles, and that can't. But it's no different to our school system. That's broken too.
Right. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And Naomi's made a good point. I think you're right. The attack surface will be blown wide open once more people adopt AI and machine learning. It's going to make everything more complicated and much less secure.
Yeah. And like I said, there is something to be said about human interaction, human communication. I know we're trying to get to that place of, rapidly growing our technology. And like I said, taking away some of the mundane tasks. And that's all well and good, but we need a balance as well. And unfortunately, with the world, everything seems very unbalanced.
I mean, that's not just another show. That's kind of a whole encyclopedia of shows. And yeah, I mean, the world is a mess, isn't it? It is completely out of balance. I saw a good post on LinkedIn from someone who was sharing a good news site, which only talks about the good things happening. And I think sometimes, whilst there are atrocities and awful stuff happening around the world, there are still a lot of decent people. And I'm hoping that this might be some change we need at the moment, where people start to realise there's more to life than what we've been doing the last however many years. But let's not get deep and philosophical. I'll definitely be here all day. I'll have to take my suit off and get comfortable. What's this, Kerry? It was pointed out when quantum computing comes out that everything will be unencrypted that is encrypted. I mean, that's a really good point. Everything we're talking about is completely irrelevant unless we jump on and people start finding out more about quantum computing and the security side, because it will effectively make everything null and void, won't it?
Yeah. Like I said, and I saw a post, somebody was posting about something to do with Cisco and the vulnerability that he had found in it. And what the hell are we doing? Technology is growing at a rapid speed. Why are we using old stuff to solve issues? Get out of that mindset. It's not working anymore. We don't, it's like horse and buggy. We developed. We're not in horse and buggy anymore.
Although some people's mindsets globally seem to be, don't they? Let's be even further back than that, I think. I don't know. I laugh about it, but it's upsetting. I don't even like watching the news at the moment. It's really sad times. Let's not finish on a sad note. We've gone slightly over time. I want to thank you so much for two things: one, coming on, and two, being abandoned for 5 minutes by me, which wasn't nice.
No, it's fine.
And thank you, Kimberly, for jumping in with some questions. Thanks to everyone else who's watched as well and continues to tune in. It is much, much appreciated. Any final words, Jessica, before we go?
Simon, keep doing what you're doing. I love having these conversations. We need it. We need that human communication to keep flowing. Let's keep doing this thing. The more we get it out there.
Getting other people to get involved as well, and getting people involved who wouldn't normally do this is my aim, because no disrespect to the industry, it's a lot of the same people all the time that you hear, and annoyingly I'm one of those at the moment, but I'm just not an expert. But that's because I'm a gob on a stick, and it's just who I am. But most of the talent out there and the real leaders of our industry aren't on LinkedIn every day. and aren't doing things like this. And I think we're missing out on some real insights from those as well. So if anyone would like to be a guest on this moving forward, please do reach out to me. Even better, if you'd like to be a sponsor for this event, please reach out to me. And for anyone who hasn't, please come along and join our free community. We're approaching 3,000 members, 9 months old now. It's free and it's just there to support each other, different levels, from people trying to break into CISOs, all helping each other and trying to make a difference in this world. So Jessica, I've got a little video to play out. I have to put my £1 glasses back on to find out where it is that make my eyes look this big. But thank you so much, and everyone, thanks ever so much for watching. And I'll play you out with, it's an old video now. I mean, I say old, the community's only 9 months old. This was recorded about 6 months ago from our members. I've got a new compilation coming soon. But Jessica, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
you for watching.
Appreciate it.
And it's been so great to be part of this awesome community where you can learn, get potential jobs, and this is the part that the community has helped me the most, being able to get a great contract in security, and thanks for this.
You don't have to be super experienced in order to contribute. They really foster a sense of community, and they encourage everybody to contribute anything that they can, regardless of whether you're just starting out in your career or if you've been in the career for decades. I like the different challenges that they have, the different pathways that you can follow, the fact that you can join communities that are specific to you and your needs. It's a new and growing and thriving group, and I'm really proud that I was able to be a part of it from almost the very beginning.
It's given me a community I could lean on, and the people in there are always willing to help. I've also gotten to break into cybersecurity because of InfoSec Live, and I'm very grateful for that.
Cybersecurity professional or are trying to become one, you need to get onto InfoSec Live.
Whether you brand new to the field, whether you are pivoting from another IT career or you're pivoting from a non-IT career, this is the place for you to. Also, even if you are an experienced professional, there will be something here that you can learn.
InfoSec Live has been great for me because it's brought me closer to other like-minded people, and I've been able to pick the brains of some real industry experts that are also part of the community.
To the right place, because listen, let me tell you that InfoSec.live is everything that it claims to be. A vibrant community. They've got all that you need on InfoSec.live. Listen, I tell you, InfoSec.live is addictive. Get on board. Come and get addicted.
Get on InfoSec.